Love Billy Bragg. I got into Billy Bragg because of a Rancid song.
Oh. I don't want those Billy Bragg songs anymore.
You know what really makes us mad? Is wasting money on CDs with only one or two good songs.
Yeah. Tell them about punk.
What's up, posers? Welcome to Punk Lotto Pod, the game where no one wins. I'm your co-host, Justin Hensley.
I am your other co-host, Dylan Hensley.
And joining us today for our first regular episode of the year 2020 and the brand new decade, it's our good friend Cory.
But not my first time on the show in 2020, as your schedule.
Actually, yes,
Worked
that's
out.
very. Yep, you're on the best of 2019 episode, and we recorded your part like 2 weeks ago. So
I've been waiting so long to hear my own voice.
Again, just narcissistically playing your part over and over again.
I only download my episodes. That's why they have so many plays.
If you listen to it on Spotify, it shows as a repeat play, as a separate download every time. So, yeah, we're back on format. It's been a while since we've done this, but this is the show where using a number generator and the Rate Your Music Punk charts, we choose one album and one EP at random to discuss. And for this episode, we are talking about the year 1998.
Say I'm pretty fly for a white guy. Gotta scream! Yeah! I would swallow my pride, I would choke on the rhymes. Kissing the curve in your clavicle.
As usual, we like to take a look at the Rate Your Music Punk charts and just what looks interesting to everyone.
To me personally or culturally? Because there's a gap there.
Well,
I want to say this is one of the few times where I don't necessarily like the records, but I agree with their placement, like culturally on the charts, at least for the top 5. These are all very significant records. Just to rattle them off really quickly, Shape of Punk to Come by Refused, obviously. Number 1, Sunny Day Real Estate, How It Feels to Be Something on, not a great Sunny record, but still significant in their discography. Keys Be Nights by Catch-22, Downward is Heavenward by Hum, Where Blood and Fire Bring Rest by Zao. That one I am a little surprised to see as high as it is, but it's a great record. It makes sense in terms of hardcore and the shift towards metalcore happening at this time.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite albums on this list. Huge Zao fan. Yeah, it's the first record with Dan on vocals, and they kind of, they changed their sound from just more like an Earth Crisis style hardcore band, and then became this, I don't know, they're such a weird band for their metalcore, but they don't follow a lot of the traditional standard metalcore, like, here's a breakdown, here's a, layouts of songs, but yeah, that record is, I'm surprised it's as high as it is as well.
But I don't know, I mean, actually looking a little further, like, I kind of wouldn't dispute the top 15 at all. I mean, these all look really significant.
You would dispute the top 15?
No, I wouldn't.
Oh,
like,
okay, sorry, I'm interested.
They all seem appropriate for 1998.
Melt Banana seems odd.
That one's yeah. You listened to some Melt Banana this week.
I listened to that album.
Was that in preparation for this episode?
Yes, because I was doing 1998.
Okay.
So I was like listening to a couple things on here I hadn't listened to before. I tried to listen to that Sunny Day Real Estate. Sunny Day Real Estate is the most important band that I cannot finish an album by. I just get bored and change it halfway through every single time I start a Sunny Day Real Estate album. They're just too slow for me for what they're doing.
Yeah, I've probably listened to Diary once in my life.
Yeah, I've probably never finished Diary, which is, I know, I have a podcast, and I should probably be aware more of that whole album. But
Yeah, I mean, I can only kind of recall what the first 2 or 3 songs on that album sound like, so I can't tell you what Fuerten Square Toe sounds like. So,
As the two Fugazi heads of the pod, where does End Hits fit for you guys?
well, I posted this on Twitter, but I said that I thought In Hits was the worst Fugazi record.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of agreements from some regular followers, but then other people were like, "Well, it's still Fugazi, so it's better than most other stuff." And
So I don't love Fugazi, so I haven't heard. I haven't just. I've probably heard multiple albums, but nothing stuck for me.
Mhm.
I'm sure I've heard End Hits, but I don't remember it. But what a great album name!
yeah, End Hits, yeah,
It's such a good name. There was a record store in Ottawa called End Hits, named after this album, and it wasn't a great record store, but it was a cool like cultural hub. They had shows in the basement. It didn't last very long. It was probably only open for maybe 2, 3, 4 years, and it was run by one of the more prominent like DIY indie punk promoters in Ottawa, and the two guys who ran that promotion company, and the main guy who ran it put on Fugazi shows in Ottawa in the 80s and 90s. Like, he goes back deep in punk history, and yeah, the store unfortunately ended up closing, but End Hits, it's just such a perfect record store name.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was supposed to see Latterman there. I never actually got I don't think the story was ever clear whether they were turned away at the border or whether they just didn't feel like driving to Ottawa, because I'm pretty sure they ended up making their Montreal show the next night.
Weird.
But it was canceled with like 2 hours to go before, and so instead of going to see Latterman, we went and stood outside the fence of this big Ottawa festival that happens every year. It's called Ottawa Blues Fest. It's not an only blues festival, and we stood outside the fence and listened to, I think it was Nico Case. I think we went and listened to Nico Case for free. We just stood in the fence behind the stage.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
What you said? What you were personally listening to in '98? What were you thinking of specifically?
Well, for me, when I'm looking at the Rate Your Music list, I think I've been thinking about Seisha a little bit lately, and just trying to like remember what Seisha was for me, because I don't actually remember. It's like they're more important in my head than they ever actually were in the rest of my listening habits, or like how they figured into my everyday life.
I think that's actually just true of Seisha.
Yeah, that just makes sense for Seisha.
Like, I think they're just more important to everyone who recognizes that band
Yeah.
than in their head. It's like, oh yeah, Seisha, that's important. But they don't have any significant memories of listening to Seisha.
Yeah, like I have the Seisha discography CD.
You and Paris Hilton.
Sorry?
You and Paris Hilton. Did you ever see that old meme where someone shopped the Seisha discography CD into her hand?
I do, yeah.
Old memes with Justin Hensley.
That's a great one. It's a classic.
They did a good job. Like, it really looks like she's holding it.
We should update that meme with a more relevant cultural figure now.
Yeah, Seisha's a weird choice.
Jojo Siwak holding Seisha. I meant the person holding it, not.
Oh.
Right.
Keep the Seisha part.
And I mean, you don't
Baby Yoda holding Seisha.
you don't hang on Paris Hilton's every word. I mean,
She
I go
has
to
one.
every DJ set in Dubai.
She has one good song.
We're welcome.
Oh,
Okay, Drop Dead.
more?
Drop
She
Dead.
has more?
That second Drop Dead record is great. I was just listening to that record last week when I was trying to put together a 3D puzzle.
trying and failing.
Yeah, I didn't finish it. Lauren finished it.
I don't think Drop Dead are good puzzle music.
It was my listening choices reflecting the aggression that I was feeling toward the 3D puzzle.
Just like smashing it at the end.
Oh yeah. No, I still love that record. Like, next for me, just personal listening habits. Number 17, At the Drive-In in Casino Out, is still and always will be my favorite At the Drive-In album. I played the hell out of that album.
On this page, number 14 is pretty important to me. It's Dillinger 4's Midwestern Songs of the Americas. It's the first D4 record. Arguably the best, but depends on, what your personal preferences are. I think overall, people say it's the strongest one. Regardless, it's a great record. D4 never released a bad album. But I was trying to think back to what I was actually listening to in 1998.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I can point out a lot of records on this list that are great, really important to me, but not in 1998. No. I was 8 years old.
I was in the 3rd grade, maybe? No. 98, I was in the 6th grade. That was a little later.
I was in the 3rd grade.
I distinctly remember on page 2 and 3 are albums that I owned, and one was Eve 6's self-titled album. I still very much enjoy that record. And then the other one is the Offspring's Americana. And I remember being in art class in the 6th grade, and this kid in the art class, who I didn't really like that much, he was kind of a jerk, but he had the Offspring album, and I had the Eve 6 album, and so we traded for the week, and I listened to Americana nonstop for a week straight until and then I gave it back to him at the end of the week, and then I wound up buying it myself the next summer with Smash Mouth's Astro Lounge.
Americana was a pretty big Offspring record, though, wasn't it? I'm pretty surprised that it's not higher.
Was
it just like a high selling record, but not a great record?
It's got some solid songs. I don't know if that's just my nostalgia, changing, rearranging how good it was, but I feel like it has some good songs on it, but it was a really well-selling record. Probably their last best-selling record. It had Pretty Fly for a White Guy.
Yeah.
That was a huge song.
Yeah.
It's got Why Don't You Get a Job.
Kids.
It had a lot of singles on it.
Yeah, it did.
It did.
Yeah, I mean, from this list, there's not a ton that in 1998 I was listening to. I remember loving 2 songs off the Living End self-titled album. Living
End are a weird band.
They're not great.
They're not rockabilly, but they kind of are, right? Is that right?
That's fair, yeah.
They don't write rockabilly songs, but they look like rockabilly guys?
Yeah. I mean, they have a little bit of rockabilly, too. They had a stand-up bass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Prisoner of Society was the lead track of this. It was great. And then I'm just looking at the track list right now, and I don't see the other song I was thinking of, so that must not have been on this album.
Justin, were you listening to MXPX in 1998, or that's too early for...
It's too early for me now.
How's this album, though? Is it a good one?
Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo is... If I remember correctly, it used to be the one that everybody said was their best record. I think opinions has switched back to Life in General, though actually if you look at the ratings, it is the highest rated one on Rate Your Music. I think it's probably the most advanced they ever got as far as songwriting.
Yeah. I think it's their serious record.
Yeah, but I don't know what songs are on that one. Does that have
I'm
Okay, You're Okay, Tomorrow's Another Day. There's some Party at My House, Be There. Actually, I know quite a few of these songs.
Katie and I reference this record often.
Why?
I don't know why. Well, Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo is just an expression that we use a lot. And it's entirely because of this album.
Where is our love going? Slowly the Way of the Buffalo.
But right below that is the Bananas, Forbidden Fruit. I listened to that this week. That's a pretty good record.
That is a good record, yeah. That's one of the better Bananas albums.
Yeah. I was surprised to see it so highly rated. And I remember you talking about the Bananas at one point, and I was like, I should probably listen to that band.
Yeah, there's a Pogo record on here. I'm going way past you guys right now.
Yeah.
There's some pretty good records on in this year.
Dylan, you got a big one on here at number 60.
Is it Frodis?
Yep.
Yes. Conglomerate International. That's the second best Frodis record. I'm not too surprised by the placement on this record, on this chart. I would personally say it should be higher, but I'm not surprised that Rate Your Music hasn't ranked it higher. I mean, I think even among nerds, Frodis is a pretty obscure band, so...
Yeah.
Right before Frodis on the list is Strung Out with Twisted by Design. I don't maybe I've heard one accidentally, but I don't think I've ever heard a Strung Out song, and I've always refused to listen to a Strung Out song because of the name of this album title. I don't want to listen to a band that puts out an album called Twisted by Design. It's so terrible.
Well, okay, so we should probably move on, but I want to say I am up to like page 3, going on to page 4, and there's a lot of great records.
Yeah, I was all the way up to page
1998
5.
is a great year, and it has always stuck out to me in my head as a great year. But I'm even seeing records that I don't even necessarily immediately think of as 1998 records. Bread and Circuits, Blue Tip, Join Us. There's a lot of really, really, really good stuff.
Yeah, it's a really strong year. I guess this is like after like punk had its huge like revival in the 90s. So we just started getting a little bit more creative takes on the genre, I guess. And there's some pretty interesting stuff here. Before we get into our album, I decided to look at the other charts to see what albums also came out in 98 that would be of interest to punks. And the most important one I saw was Neutral Milk Hotels and The Airplane Over the Sea.
All right, yeah.
That's a massive record that wound up impacting the punk scene drastically, especially in the 2000s. I'm not the biggest Neutral Milk Hotel fan. I don't dislike them or anything, but I just never fully got into them like everyone else. But I felt like that was an important one to mention. I don't think the folk punk scene would exist without some of what Neutral Milk Hotel did.
Yes, I actually really loved that album in college. I never need to hear it ever again. I don't know if I've mentioned that on the show before. Yet, for some reason, you do still hear it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a for indie kids, I guess. I mean, I'm surprised more people aren't completely exhausted by that record at this point. But
I bet it's other college students that are playing that record, and that's where when you hear it, it's because some junior in a college somewhere is like, "Have you heard this band?" and they're playing it in their coffee shop.
It's the record that juniors and seniors in college pass to freshmen.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to hear Neutral Milk Hotel. He sings these really creepy songs about being in love with Anne Frank. It's great.
I don't have any Neutral Milk Hotel hot takes. There were individual songs on that album that I occasionally listen to still, but I don't need to listen to it front to back.
Yeah, the only other albums that came out in 98 that were like kind of punk adjacent but not actually on the chart is there's a Pedro the Lion record. It's Hard to Find a Friend. I'm not familiar with that one. There's Archers of Loaf, White Trash Heroes, and Bob Mold's Last Dog and Pony Show. But yeah, we'll move on to the album. And
how can you forget System of a Down by System of a Down?
Is Chop Suey on that one?
No.
Oh.
That's why you can forget it.
Okay, we'll really get onto our album now. So, we got number 149 on the album charts, and it is Radon with their album 28. the way. Radon are from Gainesville, Florida, and formed in 1991. This is the band's first full-length album after releasing multiple EPs and singles. It was released on No Idea Records, which we have discussed many times in the past. The person on this record is Dave Rom, who is credited as Rockadamus Rom on guitar and vocals, Brent Wilson on bass and vocals, and Bill Clower on drums. It was recorded by Rob McGregor at Turd Studios. Rob recorded tons of Gainesville bands, including Against Me, Hot Water Music, As Friends Rust, basically every other No Idea band that lived in Gainesville. Bill also played in the Sheryl Crow Mags, a.k.a. Crows, which is, as well as the Ship Thieves with Chris Wallard from Hot Water Music.
I think I was most curious to know what Dylan thought of it.
All right, Dylan, you're on the spot.
I think you guys both haven't we watched Radon together?
Twice?
Yeah.
Twice, yeah. Okay. Did we saw them this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Year.
Okay. I can't remember.
I have probably only ever listened to this Radon record.
This is the only one you've listened to?
I think so.
Really? Okay.
And every time I listen to it, I think I go, oh, I do like Radon.
Yeah. But they're not a band you think about often.
No. Well, other than every single year because they're always at Fest.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And for several years, I always put them on my list and didn't go see them until probably last year.
Okay, now I'm kind of remembering this. Didn't we all have that same experience where we all put them on our list every year and never saw them until 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
It was when the new record came out. It was the first time we saw them.
Right, and that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't pick it up from them. I think I couldn't find a band member after the show. And I still don't have a physical copy of that record, but listening to 28 reminded me that I should go and give that one a listen again. It's great. They're a consistently good band.
I don't remember listening to the new one. I listened to Metric Buttloads of Rock more than any of the others.
Yeah, same for me.
Maybe it's because of the timing when it came out. That came out in 2008, 2006, something around that. Yeah. So it was the newer one.
I had maybe the same experience as Dylan, though, that when I was going through 28, the melodies came back to me. I've probably listened to 28 way more than I think I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I knew every song. and it's not a record that I have gone to more than really a few times, honestly. I knew them. And I don't know.
They're an easy band to sing along with.
Yeah.
Track 5. Terror.
I didn't listen to this one that often. I used to get really confused by which album was which, because all the first two albums and their singles compilation all have the same art scheme, I guess, or format. Yeah. And so they're just basically defined by the green one, the orange one, and the purple one, essentially. And it's I never knew which one I was thinking I was listening to. So I probably listened to this one the least. Well, no, I probably listened to the comp the least, but...
I mean, even the new one, the only really difference in the artwork is that they changed up the logo. It's no longer... No, I guess even from album to album, they changed up the logo a little bit, just looking at the art. On Metric Buttloads of Rock, it's different from 28 and We Bear All. But the new one, it's still an overexposed live shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They have an aesthetic.
Yeah. Would you be surprised to find out that this album was recorded in 1992?
I would be surprised to learn that.
Yeah.
I found an interview with Razor Cake. The band existed from 91 to 94.
Mm-hmm.
And broke up and then like would sporadically get together and play some stuff and towards the end of the 90s and then get back together and record a new album in the 2000s. But yeah, it was recorded over a few weekends in the summer of 92 and apparently it just took forever to get pressed. There's a story about the tapes were lost in the mail on the way to United Records and they were returned to No Idea, all messed up. He said it was like mangled and charred. He said Var was holding them with metal tongs, showing it to him. Like, I don't know what happened to it. So he had to like send them off to be repaired and then like try it again. Then the band broke up and then it took 4 more years before the album finally came out. So this is like a super posthumous record.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to think about how this record sounds and put that in 1992's perspective. And if
almost 30 years old.
And it sounds like it came out in the late 90s. Like knowing that it's a 92 recording makes me think that Radon were way ahead of their time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this sounds like a record that came out the same year as the first Dillinger 4 record.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Var said in an interview that he thinks that if it had come out in 92, it would have been placed alongside Crimp Shrine and Operation Ivy as far as like importance in the punk scene. And they had never played outside of Florida, except the one time they tried to play with Archers of Loaf in Chapel Hill and wrecked their van in South Carolina. And so like it was a really bad wreck where like two people flew 30 feet and the lead singer flew 15 feet. And yeah, they got hurt very badly in that wreck. And so they never played outside of Florida, which I don't know if that's changed since then, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Little green men coming out of paint cans, phosphate mines and slate lime. 1966, he was 16. In Central Florida, there in the drag line, played over the pit, dig up more of that green shit. Traded with the Russians, who are traditionally hated. You can imagine that after a few years, that you would run out of things to say. And I'll be here every day. Gypsy, right on 222.
Yeah, I mean, to the people in Gainesville's credit, they've never given up on pushing Radon as an important band. Like, they're on the fest every year they can be on the fest. I think members live in different states now, so I don't know if that's always possible for them. You know, it seems like someone in Florida has always been around to make sure that they get the respect that they think they deserve.
But even musically, like they feel like an influence. I guess we could talk about what they sound like. They cite the Replacements and Husker Du as influences, and that makes a lot of sense for how they sound.
Yeah, and especially in like that early '90s. You know, you talk about lumping them in with bands like Operation Ivy and Crimp Shrine. I mean, maybe not sound wise, because Radon really avoids that like early to mid 90s like funky punk sound.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about 15 earlier this week, and I could never really get into 15. They were a little too much of that that like Berkeley East Bay funky punk sound that it didn't do it for me.
the Jawbreaker boxcar kind of rhythm.
Yeah, but worse.
Yeah.
Because that song rips.
Yeah, Jawbreaker's kind of the one band who pulled that off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just funny to think of, because it has a very Gainesville sound. I don't know how much Against Me or Hot Water Music borrowed from Radon, but there's definitely hints of it there. And then once you get into like the smaller Gainesville bands like North Lincoln or stuff like that, it really makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean the melodies were what I was really picking up on throughout the whole thing. Just how memorable some of these choruses are, how memorable some of these like melodies throughout the verses are. Lying to You is such a killer opening track.
Yeah. The first so good. 3 songs are perfect.
Yeah, I would even go up to like the first 5 or 6. I think it kind of falls off a little bit in the back end. Like 2 Feet was okay. Feline Growth, not great.
Yeah.
And then it picks up again. I think my favorite track, I don't want to say the name of track 9. I just think I don't like that word.
Say it. Say it.
I'm not going to say it.
I'll say this. It's not Grandma's Cookie. We'll just change one of those letters.
It's what you circle, dot, you get your...
Yeah.
It's such an unfortunate name for such a good song.
Yeah, it is one of the strongest tracks on here. Like
I remember seeing that song title and then picking my phone back up once the song was actually playing. I was like, "Oh, what song is this?" And I was like, "Oh."
I can't think of another song where laughing is part of the song. But I like that part of the end.
This can only be happening here. My head on the TV set and my mouth on a beer. Oh, loneliness and death. I don't care if you're 3 or you're 33. I don't care if you're 9 or you're 99. I don't care if you got a car you can't go for. Enough I said you gotta have friends. Go, good all alone. Try to get out but they drag you back home. And when I say drag, I mean dragged. Darling, she spit out blood. And I was so
I do think the last track is the worst song on the whole album. Rasta Guy.
My only note for that is middle-aged Rasta guy funny?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I don't think it's funny. It's apparently about a real person.
Yeah.
A person with schizophrenia, and like one of the members of the band, I think it was Dave, worked in like social services or something, and like he like worked with the guy.
Okay.
I guess it's fair. I guess that he knew the guy, but yeah.
I mean,
there's some
I
questionable.
feel like he's
lyrics.
not punching down on that song though. Like I don't necessarily feel like he's actually making fun of him.
It feels more observational.
Yeah.
But I think that the intent was probably to be funny. Like they've never been a super serious band. They like to have fun.
Yeah.
They I wouldn't call them a joke band, but there's an attempt at humor.
Well, like, what's the song with the chorus is just like ooh ha ha ooh ha ha? Is that one? What is that one?
I don't remember the title of that one.
Yeah, it's one that stands out to me as them playing live too.
Yeah,
that
he has such a great way of stringing like words and sounds together.
Yeah, he said every single Radon song has a line borrowed from something, whether it was like a person he overheard in real life, or like a line from a song or a book or a movie. He said there's something from every song has something.
I thought until yesterday when I actually looked at the track listings, I thought the chorus to Audio Illusions was "We Play on Your Illusions."
What is it?
We play Audio Illusions.
We play Audio Illusions.
Oh, oh yeah.
Audio Illusions.
Sounds kind of like a Bouncing Souls song.
It does.
It's such a good song though.
Yeah, it's way better than any Bouncing Souls song, but it has that weird melody arrangement or something to it that Bouncing Souls, I guess, would copy because they were after Radon. So
yeah.
So I don't know if they would have heard that song before '98. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the first 5 tracks on this record are great.
Hmm.
If you cut this record completely in half and just did those first 5 songs, it would be one of the best punk EPs of the 90s and maybe
Beyond.
even a little further. I mean,
That's high
It's-
praise from
those
Dylan.
first 5 songs are great.
Mhm.
It does kind of, they get a little, the last
They get
half,
a little grungy.
yeah, it's a little more experimental.
Yeah, it's a little slower. Yeah, those just a couple of slow songs toward the back half of the record. Just they're not great.
Yeah, like Haiti and Feline Growth are probably 2 other songs I don't like as much as the A side of the record. And they have a little bit of a Jawbreaker vibe on a couple songs, but it's not super prominent.
Yeah,
I love the harmonica on Live It Down.
yeah, that's something they carried through the
Yeah.
rest of their albums too. It's on Metric Buttloads of Rock,
Mhm.
Gainesville Harpcore.
Well, unless anyone has anything else they want to add about this record, we can give it a rating.
You go first, Dylan.
I'm gonna give it a 4.25.
Ooh.
My initial reaction was probably a 4, but I'm gonna give it the extra 2.5 or 0.25, sorry, just for how great the first half is. And just for the revelation that this was recorded in 92,
Yeah.
how far ahead of punk in general they were when they wrote these songs and recorded these songs. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4.25. I liked it a lot more than I expected to like it.
What do you say, Cory?
I'm gonna go. That's high praise from Dylan.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I really like this album. I think that the weakness of those last couple of tracks, I'm gonna say it's a 3.95 for me.
Cory's special rating system.
I have a rubric.
And I'll give it a 3.75 actually. For the same reasons. The back half is just a little too weak for me. I am tempted to bump it up to a 4, knowing that it's a 92 album, but just in a vacuum, listening to it on its own, I'm gonna go with a 3.75. All right, well, we will move on to our EP. We got number 69 on the EP charts, and it is Discount with Love Billy.
It may have been Camelot for Jack and Jacqueline, but on the Trocadero highway filling up with gasoline. Fidel Castro's brother spies a rich lady who's crying over luxuries, disappointment, so he walks over and he's trying to sympathize with her, but he thinks that he should warn her that the third world is just around the corner. In the Soviet Union, a scientist is blinded by the resumption of nuclear testing, and he is reminded that Dr. Reuben Hammer's optimism failed. It's the first hurdle.
Discount were from Vero Beach, Florida. I didn't realize we were doing double Florida bands this week, but
I'm very excited about this week.
they formed in 1995, and this is an EP of Billy Bragg covers released between their first album, Ataxia's All Right Tonight, and their second album, Half Fiction. It was released on Fueled by Ramen, which is very odd because they never released anything else on that label. And the person on the record is Allison Mosshart on vocals, Ryan Segrist on guitars, James Parker on bass, and Bill Nesper on drums. It was recorded by Steve Heritage of Assuck and Judd Judd. And
That
Morris,
is a great detail that I did not know.
at Morris Sound Studios. He would later produce albums by Hot Water Music, Coalesce, and Suffocation. And Allison would later go on to play in The Kills and The Dead Weather, which was a Jack White
Yeah.
post-White Stripes band. Bill would later play in Unitas with Jason Black from Hot Water Music, and Ryan would later play in The Monikers.
Underrated band.
Yeah, so you are the Discount expert on the show. So why don't you talk about them, this EP, whatever you want to say.
And maybe the Billy Bragg expert too. Do you guys you guys like Billy Bragg?
I don't dislike Billy Bragg. I've never listened to any of his albums. I've just heard a couple songs.
Okay.
Yeah. My when I listened to this EP, I was like, oh, this is what Billy Bragg should sound like. 'Cause every time I hear Billy Bragg, I'm a little disappointed.
Okay, incorrect.
I just feel like that it's not finished. It's all of his songs just sound like the idea of the song instead of the finished product.
Okay, also incorrect.
My issue with the Billy Bragg songs is that they just don't sound recorded well.
Adds to the charm.
Mm.
And I say that as someone who loves like Springsteen demos, and so I know that I'm wrong, but anyway, carry on.
He does have different stages in his career as well. There were the full band years that are my least favorite years, but if you're wanting to hear more fully fleshed out songs, there are full band albums that are better recorded. If you want to go, we can talk about this because some of these songs come from, or at least two of the songs come from here. But Don't Try This at Home is one of my favorite Billy Bragg albums. That's got some full band stuff on it, and a picked song that's on this EP. The discount version and the Billy Bragg version are just okay. It's off one of my least favorite Billy Bragg albums.
It was my least favorite song on the EP.
Yeah, mine as well. But that if you're wanting to hear like a full band Billy Bragg album, you might want to go for William Bloke. It's got one of his best songs on it, Upfield. Anyway, I'm here to convert you into a discount and a Billy Bragg fan if you are a fan of neither.
I think Billy Bragg is a very important figure who writes incredible songs. It's just I've just always been hung up on the production value. But yeah. Now tell us why we should be loving Discount. Okay.
So on the Best of 2019 album, I think I talked about Martha and in a just world, Martha being the most important band in punk right now. I think that similarly in a just world, Discount would be looked at as one of the most important bands in punk. I don't know how to quantify that outside of a personal connection. I know this is a highly subjective opinion, but I just think they were a great band. They never put out anything that isn't worth listening to. Every release, a Billy Bragg covers EP is like a low point in their career.
Weirdly, it's the highest rated EP on there.
And it's fine. Page. I have nothing wrong with this EP. Like it is fine. We'll get to my thoughts on this specific EP, but like you can't mess with their LPs. Half Fiction is one of I think the best pop punk albums of all time.
I went back and listened to a little bit of Half Fiction. I didn't get very far into it, but what I heard I enjoyed. They have you were saying you couldn't think of a band to compare them to. I can't remember. You did have one, and I don't remember who it was now.
Yeah, so I mean, it was almost helpful for me, like talking about these two bands together that we're talking about today.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, the phone, guys. Just 1 second.
It's the other podcast you're recording.
2 in 1.
Sorry, I'm back. You just have to cut that part out.
We will. We were talking shit about you behind your back. So.
I know. For all my pauses.
Fun till daddy takes
No, so for me, like listening to these two bands together on this episode, it made so much sense. Like I have very often thought about Discount as being a really singularly unique band, but the more that I think about that 90s, like very regionally specific Florida scene, especially now after listening to Radon and like thinking each band through the other, it's really useful framing for me to put Discount into context. I think that in like the aftermath is the wrong word. After Discount had broken up, they became like a really lazy touchstone for any punk band with a woman singer.
Mhm.
Were they the Lemuria of their day? You know how everyone called anything with a woman singer, oh, it sounds like Lemuria. Even
Exactly.
if it didn't sound anything like them.
Exactly. It's sloppy and it's lazy. Fifth Hour Hero doesn't sound anything like Discount. The Measure doesn't sound anything like Discount. The Measure sounds a little bit like Radon.
Yeah, that's true.
and coming to The Measure helped. I talked about how coming to The Measure helped put American Steel into context for me and like helped me. It was like a bridge point for me getting really into American Steel. Similarly with Radon, I'd probably heard Radon before I'd heard The Measure, but it wasn't until after I heard The Measure that I could really contextualize Radon. And so, yeah, it was a cool experience for me to listen to these two records together, to knowing that I had to speak about them both in the same conversation. I mean, in terms of the actual like release, like I said, Discount has much better. They've got much better releases. They've got 2 single collections that are fantastic. They've got 3 full lengths that are amazing. Track 1 off their last LP, Crash Diagnostic, it's called Broken to Blue. I think it's one of the best punk songs ever, period. In terms of this release, okay. I will say the CD cover art is great.
It's actually probably one of their best album covers.
It is. So it's like just like a classic 90s punk album cover for a band that admittedly, as much as I love them, had terrible art. The art for Taxi Is Alright Tonight, the art for Half Fiction are atrocious.
Half Fiction has a little charm to it because of how bad it is.
I like Half Fiction. Like,
the art?
Yeah,
I get what it's going for.
It's bad, man.
It's
good. On purpose, though.
It's bad in a good way.
Okay.
I don't know. I like it.
Crash Diagnostic is okay. Crash Diagnostic, the art looks like it could be like a 2000 era Jade Tree release.
Yeah.
And then singles number 1, the art is again atrocious. Singles number 2, the art is almost perfect.
Oh, ooh. Singles number 1's album cover is atrocious. The second one is very good. I like the second one.
Singles 2 is great. And Singles 2 is a better singles collection as well. Portrait of a Cigarette is probably the first Discount song I ever heard. That and then Clap and Cough off Half Fiction are just, those were probably my earliest introductions to the band. So great CD cover art. The LP art, because this was released a CD EP on Fuel by Ramen, and then a split LP with Jay Church doing, was it Electric Light Orchestra covers? Yeah. But the Discount side of that art is a great take on the classic early 80s Billy Bragg records.
It's so funny. So they actually have 2 different splits with Jay Church. I mean, one is not a true split in the sense that it's just a collection of both bands doing covers, but
yeah, and it was a 7-inch.
There's the split 7-inch, and to me, Jay Church was the most obvious similar artist, like their actual albums, not this.
Yeah, and you mentioned that for me, and so for me, Jay Church just isn't a band that I've listened to a lot. I think when we were talking about it, I said like Society's a Carnivorous Flower is probably the one I've listened to the most, and I like the music, but I was never really into Lance's vocals, and I maybe this is kind of one of those things that you guys have talked about before. Like I recognize the importance of Jay Church. I think that like Lance's writing and his prolific music output are important for like keeping a certain scene and a certain sound alive in the 90s and the early 2000s. It didn't do much for me.
I genuinely love Jay Church. I think he was one of our most underrated artists of his era, like the 90s and early 2000s. But I also can understand why it'd be hard to get into him. He doesn't have the best hooks on his albums, and so that's probably why it's hard to get into, and he's very wordy, so like a lot of his lyrics are, coming at you pretty quick, but if you read what he's saying too, there's a lot of really great stuff in his lyrics, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I just need to give it a closer listen. That happens.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual songs on this EP, they range from like pretty good to meh, whatever. I think "Accident Waiting to Happen" is like an all-time great Billy Bragg song. The discount version, the intro is not good, kind of annoying, but once the full band kicks in, it sounds like a classic discount song. So the fit is really good for the choices of cover songs for the most part.
I enjoyed that song. I thought it was pretty good, but when I was listening to it the first time, I was like, what did we do? We picked the wrong thing again. If I would have known it was a Billy Bragg cover EP, we probably would have drawn again, just because we want slightly more pure representations of the bands, but we didn't find out until we were listening to it. I was like, oh, no. A little behind the...
If we would just take 2 minutes
yeah,
when we pick these records for this show.
Yeah, but musically, I think it is an interesting choice for them. Like I appreciate. So I would say the 2 songs that I liked the least are "A Picked Song" and "North Sea Bubble."
same.
Like
yeah.
they were just okay, but I do appreciate that they didn't go with entirely obvious choices. The other 3 are some of Billy Bragg's most well-known songs, so they might be a little bit more obvious. But they didn't try and do a discount version of a New England.
Yeah, I was reading, and then people were saying these weren't the most obvious selections that they.
Yeah, I think they were trying to be thoughtful about what would sound good in the context of what discount sounds like, and I think there they did a good job. "Waiting for the Great Leap Forward" is a top 5 Billy Bragg track for me. I think it works really well also as a discount song. "Help Save the Youth of America," another great Billy Bragg song, in both the original and also in the way that Discount played this one.
Those are my 2 favorites on here.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of a little bit of "I Fought the Law." Like it just had that little bit of "I Fought the Law" swing to it. I don't know if it was the chord progression or the vocal melody. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
One thing that Discount did really well in their original music was they used a lot of great octave chords, and they do that a lot on this EP to fill in for kind of the little like melodic flourishes that are in a lot of Billy Bragg's music. Like he'll often add a little, like he'll slide a finger over and just put an extra note in that makes it not just a straightforward 3-chord song.
What do you think, Dylan?
I liked it. Not very familiar with either artist. I have enjoyed everything I've ever heard by Discount, but I haven't spent much time with them and really listened to them. And Billy Bragg, you have already heard my opinion on him.
Your wrong opinion.
I will say this EP makes me want to listen to both more thoroughly. So I'm glad that we picked this EP
a
just
Discount
because...
and Billy Bragg playlist for you, by the way.
Okay. I'm glad we picked this EP for that reason, because now I have 2 artists to explore rather than just one. I thought they sounded really good, though.
Yeah, it has
there's something about this EP that Radon being really ahead of its time for when they recorded that, and then listening to this EP, it feels more like something that came out in the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
So that's, and both of those bands being in Florida, like it makes me think that, I don't know why I've never really thought of it this way, but Florida is the sound of punk, right? I mean, from this time period on. I mean, think about Hot Water Music, Against Me, even Radon,
The only other places I can think of is maybe the Midwest. The Midwest.
I mean, more significant for emo. I'm thinking much more straightforward punk, pop punk. I mean, yeah, D4.
Yeah, D4 off of their heads. But that's also a very specific style of punk. Philadelphia is important for more modern stuff that's a branch off the emo tree. And
yeah. I mean, in Philly that happened. I feel like that's a lot later.
Yeah, it's like this decade or this last decade. So
yeah. But like if you think about like you think about the Berkeley Bay Area as being kind of the capital of punk for most of the 90s. I feel like Florida is the capital of punk for the 2000s.
That feels right to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
I mean, it's funny,
And
that
not
even,
just because of Fest. It just
right.
yeah, Fest almost feels more like an extension of the music that was coming out of that state.
I mean, Hot Water Music and Against Me are two of the most important punk bands of the last 20 years. So, and they both came from Gainesville. So it's safe to say that Florida is incredibly important to the sound of punk. Yeah. So, and it is funny, Discount lived in Gainesville at one point too, which I never thought of Discount as a Gainesville band, but I don't know, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think they moved there later in their career before Crash Diagnostic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they played their last show in Gainesville. Have either of you ever listened to The Dead Weather?
No.
Like only when they first came out. Like I probably heard a single or something, but
Are they good?
I don't know. I don't remember. It seemed very Jack White, so
Okay.
I didn't really.
I don't want to be too snarky, but I haven't listened to them. I don't know if I want to be open to the possibility that something Jack White is involved in is good.
I found our lead-in sample for this episode.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm very resistant to Jack White stuffs.
The Dead Weather started as I was realizing how much of a goblin Jack White is. So I just didn't listen to it. I listened to quite a bit of White Stripes.
He saved vinyls, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has this cool thing that if you like go into the studio, they'll record the music directly to an LP. And it'll sound terrible.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this Discount EP?
I liked it. I didn't love it, but it made me more curious to listen to each, Discount and Billy Bragg separately.
I have a playlist for both of you.
Yeah. Well, cool. We can give it a rating unless anybody has anything else they want to say.
Oh, let's go for it.
Cool. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I don't. It's interesting, but it's not representative of both bands, so I don't. It'd be weird to me to give it a higher rating. But yeah, that's where I'm at. And plus, it's only an EP, so.
That's totally fair. I was also gonna go with a 3.5. Yep, songs are good. It's not an original release, so that's always going to diminish, I think, the draw that it has. But love Discount, love Billy Bragg. I got into Billy Bragg because of a Rancid song.
Oh. I don't want those Billy Bragg songs anymore.
I don't think that Billy Bragg sanctioned this song, but one of the better Lars songs in Rancid's discography. One of the better songs, Often Out Come the Wolves, which someday we'll talk about, and how good it is. In the War's End, there's a line about little Sammy, the punk rocker, and his mom came into his room and smashed his Billy Bragg record. Didn't want him to hear that communist lecture. Who's Billy Bragg? I need to know. If Lars Fredriksson is singing about him, I'm going to listen to him.
You know, the coolest member of Rancid.
I still got.
Dylan, what'd you give it?
I'm not going to break ranks. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Very enjoyable to listen to, but not something I'm going to come back to. But yeah, I'm interested enough to move forward with both artists represented by this EP. So there's that.
You can post the playlist in the listening description for people.
Oh, nice. We'll do that then. Yeah, just check out the show notes right now.
Yeah, do it.
All right. Well, next week we are staying in the 90s, and we are talking about number 75 on the album charts. And it is Madball and their album Set It Off. And our EP is number 14 on the EP charts, and it is Melt Banana with their EP Hedgehog.
Why so much Melt Banana?
I listened to that album because I was like, it's 1998. I'll listen to this album from them.
Yeah.
And then when we were drawing for the next episode, it landed immediately on Melt Banana, and I was like, well, that's a sign. We're supposed to talk about them. So, Continue to follow us on all forms of social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at punklautopod. Our email is punklautopod@gmail.com. And we have a voicemail, which is, hold on a second, I gotta look it up.
Don't know your own phone number.
It's not my phone number. 1 second. It is 202-688-PUNK. That is 202-688-7865. Leave us a voicemail. Tell us what you thought about this episode if you feel like it. Whatever you want to say. You have a 3-minute time limit on that voicemail. So, and our website is punklautopod.simplecast.fm. Cory, thanks a lot for doing the show again.
Yep. Thanks again as always, guys. It's always fun.
It's great being our first guest of 2020. And that'll do it for this week.
Are you guys shoplifting? 4-finger discount, dude.